No one knows exactly when the world began to fall apart. It was a series of events: the collapse of the internet, the climatic disasters, the economic meltdown that turned entire countries into wastelands. The great powers fell first, and cities that were once grand became shadows of their former selves. The rest of the world descended into complete chaos: civil wars, famine, plagues, and the planet plunged into an endless night. But Prague was different. The city seemed untouched, as if trapped in a bubble that shielded it from the devastation. At first, I thought it was luck, but luck doesn't last that long. There was something deeper happening, something supernatural. Life in the city felt frozen in time. Shops still opened, the streets were clean, and people smiled as if nothing was wrong. It was like living in a painting, a picture that never aged, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, as if a shadow hovered over the city, hidden just out of sight. I decided to investigate, and my questions led me to the Radkini district, the castle district, where they told me about an ancient ritual that supposedly kept the city safe. It was a legend that spoke of an artifact, an old relic called the Head of Brunvik, hidden beneath the Charles Bridge. They said that centuries ago, it had been sealed there by alchemists who wished to protect Prague from the fate that now ravaged the rest of the world. The night I decided to check the legend was cold and silent. The mist from the Vltava River enveloped the Charles Bridge like a veil, and the world seemed still, as if the city itself was watching me. The water was freezing when I plunged my arms in, groping blindly beneath the surface until my fingers touched something hard, cold, and carved, the head of Brunvik. "Oh, I found it," I murmured, lifting the relic from the water. It was ancient, made of dark stone with facial features that seemed distorted, as if they were in constant motion. Something stirred inside me, a feeling that I should let it go, let it sink back into the river, but it was too late. The moment I pulled it from the water, the sound echoed throughout the city, like the wail of a wounded creature, and then Prague began to die. The lights that illuminated the city flickered and went out, one by one, like stars being swallowed by an endless darkness. The silence gave way to screams, to a panic that spread like wildfire. I ran through the streets in desperation, clutching the head of Brunvik in my hands, trying to understand what I had done. "Oh, God, what had I done?" I whispered, but there was no answer, only the certainty that something terrible had been unleashed. Chaos consumed Prague within hours. The people, once so peaceful, turned into animals. Stores were looted, broken glass reflected the flames that began to spring up all over the city. I saw families fighting over a loaf of bread, men battling with knives over bottles of water. The beautiful old town square, where tourists once took photos of the famous astronomical clock, was now stained with blood. I ran back to the bridge, desperately searching for a way to undo what I had done, but everything around me was falling apart. The Charles Bridge, which for centuries had been the beating heart of Prague, now looked like a decaying structure, its statues cracked and broken, as if they had been corroded by centuries in mere seconds. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't force the head of Brunvik back into the water. It was as if it was stuck to my hands, weighing a ton. I had to know the truth. I had to understand why this was happening. I ran to the National Library, now overrun by looters and vandals, to find records about the legend. With the remains of a lantern, I found a dust-covered book that described the pact. The head of Brunvik wasn't just an artifact. It was the vessel for the essence of all who had sacrificed their lives to protect the city over the centuries. By removing it, I had released their spirits, and now they were demanding payment. When I left the library, I saw that Prague Castle, which once gleamed like a beacon on the hill, was shrouded in darkness. The Vltava, which once flowed peacefully, was now red like blood, and I could see strange shapes moving beneath the surface, as if the water itself was alive, hungry. I stumbled through the streets, watching people fight, buildings burn, and in the distance, I heard the sound of bells. But they weren't church bells. They were like metallic screams, echoing through the city. I realized then that they were Prague's screams, the city I had condemned with my curiosity. Oh, I had to find a way to fix this. I returned to the Charles Bridge, the wind now biting, carrying with it the whispers of the spirits I had freed. I tried to submerge the head back into the Vltava, but something held me back. A pale hand emerged from the water and wrapped around my wrist, cold and rigid like death itself. "You did this," the voice whispered, the same voice I had heard before, but now twisted, filled with rage and despair. You broke the pact. The hand pulled me into the river, and I felt the freezing water invade my lungs, burning like ice. As I drowned, I could see the reflection of the city on the surface, a Prague in ruins, engulfed by the chaos I had unleashed. The last lights went out, the screams turned to silence, and I realized with horror that I had been the last to hear the breath of a city that had finally succumbed to the end of the world. I woke up on the riverbank, the head of Brunswick beside me, intact, as if it had never left its resting place. But around me, the city was dead, plunged into a darkness that seemed infinite. Prague, the last bastion of civilization, was now just another ruin swallowed by the same void that had devoured the rest of the world. And me. I was just the final witness to a mistake that could never be undone.
The sky over Detroit has never been exactly blue. Today, it's a patchwork of metallic clouds tinged with fleeting neon, oscillating between lethargy and violence. I'm on Woodward Avenue, or what's left of it, surrounded by skyscrapers that look like needles driven into the city's heart. The few who still venture onto the streets are living ghosts, grayed by a layer of digital soot that settles everywhere, a kind of dust created by the machines that govern our lives. My name is Joe. I survive by hacking systems for corporations that pay more in digital credits than in real money. Deep down, we're all being chewed up by the gears of the system. I've just learned to be useful to it, but in the end, I'm just another disposable cog. I'm here searching for a power module, the most valuable thing someone like me can find. Technology, once a tool, is now a curse. Augmented reality is so present that we no longer know what's physical and what's projection. The streets are speckled with decadent holograms of advertisements, selling false dreams of modified bodies, new implants, a perfect future that never arrives. And here I am, searching for a power connector in the abandoned Corktown sector. What was once a charming neighborhood is now a graveyard of rotting buildings, filled with graffiti whispering about revolutions that never happened. I head towards what was once the Detroit Market Hall. Today, it's the epicenter of a black market operating at the fringes of legality and desperation. Cybernetic bodies wander aimlessly, their circuits failing, each a monument to the human error of believing we could transcend our own flesh. My eyes, augmented with AR lenses, filter out digital interference and overlays, but lately something strange has been happening. Interference I can't block. At first, I thought it was a software glitch, a corrupted line of code perhaps. But what were once random pixels have become something more defined, a triangular symbol flickering at the edge of my vision, always present, wherever I go. It's as if an entity is trying to communicate. Ignoring it seems like the wisest choice, but the truth is, I'm terrified. Every time the symbol appears, something inside me screams to run, but run where? There's no escape when your own vision is the prison. I reach the back of the market, a warehouse covered by old panels that flicker intermittently. The power here is unstable, lights failing, flickering, buzzing. I try to focus on my goal. I find the power module on one of the rusty shelves, and as I hold it in my hands, I feel a brief, almost euphoric relief. But then, the symbol appears again. But now it locks in. It pulses in my vision with an intensity never before seen, a frequency that makes me feel like my skull is about to explode. My internal defense software starts issuing alerts, and suddenly I realize, this isn't a code error. This is an invasion. My body starts to fail. The neural control implants that allow me to operate online begin shutting down one by one, and I feel a horrible pressure at the back of my mind. I try to reboot the system, but it's useless. I'm being hacked. Not just the circuits. My mind. I stumble out of the warehouse nearly blind, trying to reach some form of help. But there's no one to help me. I try to scream, but my voice won't come out, trapped in my throat, as the sensation of being controlled intensifies. My own hands start to move on their own, and I feel like I'm watching from afar, powerless. I begin walking through the streets like an automaton, controlled by a force I can't understand. My body takes me back to Corktown, but I no longer recognize the streets or the buildings. Everything is distorted, as if the city itself is being corrupted along with me. The voices on the graffiti walls seem to mock me now. They echo in my head, reminding me that there was never an escape. Finally, I'm led to the basement, to a place I didn't know existed. A room full of cables hanging from the ceiling, connecting to a control center that hums like a living hive. And then I see the people. Bodies, piled in glass capsules, directly connected to the network, their minds and souls drained, sucked dry by the machine. The last thing I feel before losing complete control is the cold of the metal against my skin and the heat of my mind being consumed, devoured by that invisible force. I'm trapped now, a thread of consciousness lost in the vast digital ocean, unable to scream, unable to escape. I'm just another cog in Detroit's great machine, a city that feeds on the desperate, the dreamers, and the failures. And in the end, I realized there was never any hope.
Dear Dad, I doubt this letter will ever reach you. The streets are nearly empty now, but something is still here. New York isn't the city you remember. It's a wasteland, hollowed out buildings and shattered windows, flashing billboards advertising nothing but glitches. The last news broadcast was months ago. The subways have stopped running, and there's no more signal on our phones, but the city is not abandoned now. The city is full of something unseen. I feel it every second of every day. I don't know when it all began, but it's clear this place isn't the New York we once knew. It's as if the city itself has turned against us. I can't tell if it's paranoia, madness, or something far worse, but what's certain is that people are vanishing, Dad. And not in the way you think. One day they're standing next to you, and the next. It's as if they were never there at all. I found some sort of shelter in what used to be a boutique hotel near Bryant Park. It's empty, apart from a few drifters like me. But there are always the sounds, whispers in the hallways, heavy footsteps above, and sometimes something else. A strange feeling that the walls are closing in, as if the building itself is watching. 2 nights ago, someone disappeared from one of the rooms. It was an older man, scruffy, with sad eyes. We had barely spoken, just nodded in passing. I went to check on him in the morning, and all that was left were his shoes and a single dirty sheet twisted on the bed. No signs of struggle, no blood, nothing. It's like he was erased. No one else in the building seemed to care. People just vanish now, and everyone keeps moving, as if to stop and notice is to invite the same fate. The city seems more deserted every day, but it's also more populated than ever by something. You don't see people much, but I hear them, or think I do. Once, I thought I saw a crowd gathered near the subway station at Herald Square. But when I approached, they vanished into thin air, like a mirage in the heat. What was left behind was an odd hum, like the static from a TV left on in an empty room. And the people who remain, they're grown, Dad. I can't explain it. Their faces look normal enough, but their eyes are hollow, vacant. They shuffle around like they're sleepwalking, barely registering each other's presence. I tried to speak to a woman near the old MetLife building yesterday. She just stared through me like I didn't exist. Then she walked off without a word. It's as if whatever is left of the city has drained the life from them, leaving only shells. What frightens me most are the disappearances. They're more frequent now. A woman I met at the hotel, Ellie, told me her husband vanished one night while he was out searching for food. He walked into a convenience store on 6th Avenue, and he never came back. Ellie waited for hours, but when she finally entered the store, there was no one inside. Not a single trace of him. She swore she heard his voice, though, as if calling to her from somewhere deep within the aisles. But no matter where she looked, she couldn't find him. The city swallows people, Dad. And I think it might be coming for me next. My daily routine consists of foraging through abandoned grocery stores and gathering rainwater from broken rooftops. The stores are mostly empty now, their shelves stripped bare, But sometimes I find cans of food in the corners, overlooked by others who have passed through. I've learned to be fast. I've learned not to linger, because the longer I stay in one place, the more I feel that oppressive gaze. The nights are the worst. They used to be filled with the constant hum of cars and sirens, but now it's silent, save for the strange noises that echo through the streets. Once, I thought I heard someone crying in an alley near the Empire State Building. But when I turned the corner, there was no one there. The crying stopped abruptly, replaced by an eerie quiet that made my skin crawl. I didn't stay to find out what it was. I couldn't shake the feeling that if I stayed too long, I'd become one of the lost. And then, last night, something changed. Something happened to me. I was lying in my bed, the sheets wrapped tightly around me like a shield, when I heard a knock at the door. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but it came again. Slow, deliberate, as if whoever, or whatever, was on the other side knew I was too scared to open it. I don't know what possessed me, but I got out of bed and walked to the door. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I called out, but no one responded. Then, just as I was about to turn the handle, I felt something cold, almost electric, surge through my hand. I pulled away immediately, but the door opened on its own. And there, standing in the doorway, was me, or at least, something that looked like me. Same face, same clothes, but with dead, glassy eyes that stared straight through me. My reflection, no, my double, stood there for what felt like an eternity before it smiled. A cold, eerie smile that didn't reach its eyes. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, it faded into the shadows. I don't know if it was real, or if I'm losing my mind, but I haven't felt the same since. It's as if something shifted inside me. Like a part of me was taken that night. I can't look in the mirror anymore. Every time I do, I fear I'll see her again, the version of me that isn't me. Dad, I think this city is a trap. I don't know how or why, but I'm certain now. People don't just disappear here. They become part of it. I've seen it happen. I saw Ellie again yesterday, but it wasn't really her. She was walking aimlessly down 42nd Street, her face blank, her movements mechanical. When I called out to her, she didn't respond. She just kept walking, disappearing into the mist that now permanently hangs over the streets. I can't fight it anymore. I've tried, but the city is winning. The more I resist, the more it pulls me in. I can feel it, Dad. I'm fading, like the others. Soon, I'll be gone too. Just another shadow wandering these haunted streets, forgotten by the world beyond. If you ever receive this letter, know that I loved you. But I won't be coming home. This place, this thing, it's devouring me. Maybe I was destined to come here. Maybe we all are. But whatever happens, don't come looking for me. Don't try to save me. Because this city, it never lets anyone leave. With all my love, Anna.